Episode 331, The Power of One More. We have a kind of a belief system that either we're going to push you up or we're going to push you out. I don't want to be around 5 other people that aren't pushing themselves to succeed. Success isn't about taking, but giving value first. Compensation follows contribution always. This is true authenticity. It's the truth. Every week, this is our story. We share with you our journey. We share with you our scars.
Please welcome your host, Ty Cobb-Backer.
And we are live. Welcome back, everybody, to Beyond the Tool Belt. Today I want to talk about one more, the power of one more. And I know this topic has come up a lot, and I like it because it's basics. It's sticking to the basics so we don't ever have to go back to them. And a lot of you know, we do a challenge every year, a couple times a year. Sometimes, and the Fearless 44. And a lot of these things that I'm going to talk about today coincide with these challenges that we do to sharpen our skills, to become somebody that we weren't before. It changes our mindset. It helps sharpen our skills and become the leaders that we have to become in order to get to the levels we want to achieve. So anyhow, so what if everything that you wanted, in life, in business, and leadership was just one more way, that one more call, that one more conversation, that one more rep, that one more uncomfortable decision. So today I want to dive into something that has genuinely shifted how I think, how I lead, how I've grown personally and professionally, how we've grown our companies. And a lot of, Vic and I have talked about this a lot. Baker and I have talked about this a lot. John, Glenn, we've all talked about this. And I want to tell you this. It's not a theory. Okay. This is something that we've lived. And so that's kind of what I'm going to talk about. So welcome to Behind the Tool Belt. If this is your first time listening on this podcast, we talk about building better lives, creating better futures for our families, building better businesses, developing stronger leaders, and becoming the best versions of ourselves, both professionally and personally. So I'm going to talk about this one more thing that has seriously had an impact on me, and where this concept came from was the book, The Power of One More, written by Ed Mylett. And it came out at a time, at a transition where I was developing into something different. And I wasn't quite sure what that was. And I needed to hear something that solidified the person that I was. Because if you know anything about me, I never stop. I'm all. And I said something to Jana the other day, like, I'm all or nothing. And she's like, no, dude, you're just all. You're just all, like you're nonstop. And, and I think thankfully I picked that up, I believe, from my parents. My dad was a huge influence and a huge impact on me growing up as a kid. He worked relentlessly, and looking back over his career and the path that he forged for us kids, I want to say he predominantly worked on the right things, because it's one thing to grind away and work your ass off, but making sure that you're very intentional on what it is that you're working on, and making sure that you're working on the right things. And I think last week we talked about that a little bit, and potentially even the week before that. So anyhow, this is kind of where I'm at right now, the one more. So great book. I talked to Chris Markey this morning about this, and I don't think he picked the book up, but I think I encouraged him to pick up the book because he owns a business as well. But this isn't just to be clear, this isn't for just business owners. I know Vic has read this book multiple times as well. And this isn't just for business owners. This is for anybody who wants to become the best version of themselves. Essentially, you could manage a household, manage a department, manage yourself, whatever you want to lead. But this, hopefully you guys get out of this as much as I've gotten out of this, because truly that's what this is all about. That's what this podcast was built on value, impact for other people. And of course we enjoy doing this stuff, and it keeps me sharp too. I gotta try to stay out in front of this, and keep myself sharp and continuing developing into the human being and the leader and the father that, I want to be, and sometimes I'm not sure what skills I need to acquire for that. But as I continue on this journey, I can tell you it's not what I'm becoming, and there's no final destination, but it's who I'm becoming on this journey. That's really amazing. So, anywho, I read the book multiple times, and every single time that I read it, I pull something different out of it. And I think what that is, I think it's because I'm growing, and I just pick up different things, or I interpret it a little bit differently because of where I'm at, the season that I'm in. And for me, that's something powerful, and not just because it sounds cool, but because it has changed me. And this book didn't just inspire me. It challenged me. It stretched me. And honestly, it forced me to become someone I wasn't yet. And that's the topic for today. So the core idea behind this, the entire premises is it's rather simple. And we're always just one more away from changing our lives. Okay. And at first that sounds probably almost too simple, but really, if you sit with it isn't that simple at all, because one more is where most people quit, and during these challenges, these Fearless 44 challenges, on the weekends, I would do one more weekend and I would talk about it. And I don't know if people knew what the hell I was talking about or not, but I would do one more of everything. I'd do one more rep. I would do one more curl. I would put more weight on. I would take one more action. Okay. I would add one more thing to next week's, to my workout journal that I developed, so I could, get out in front of it, and come Monday, it wasn't as difficult because I had already had, Friday night, Saturday, and Sunday doing this one more activity during my workout routine. So that's where I got the concept from, believe it or not. So I let the cat out of the bag, and making that one more call, when I'm tired, when I feel tired, or making that one more follow-up when it feels awkward, one more push when everyone else is done. I remember, especially early on in business, Jana and I would be at Lowe's at like 7:30, 8 o'clock at night. I'd have the dump trailer on the back of the truck and gathering up materials and tools and whatever we needed to just make sure that we were prepared for the next day. And, looking back at that, on how many times I've done that one more action that didn't delay anything, and I'd like to think that, my team sees, I hope that I'm leading by example where I had lost 40 pounds, but not just lost 40 pounds, I've been able to keep 40 pounds off. I hope that they see that, I'm usually the first one in the office. I hope they see the hours that that I've put in, and many other things that they've seen. But there's also a lot of things that they don't see, right? Those late night phone calls, those late night emails, text messages, those jobs that I've sold myself just to make ends meet at the end of the week. But it was because of those one more actions, those one more calls, those one more connections, those one more relationships, because of those calls, those emails, those text messages at that right moment when I thought that deal was dead. But I mustered up the courage to send out that one last email, and just so happened to be at that moment, it was music to those people's ears, like, oh yeah, I forgot, or man, you couldn't have caught me at a better time, where we have a subcontractor that hasn't showed up for 3 weeks, or whatever the case might be. It was because of that one more action, that one more email that I put in. And that's where separation happens. That's where, greatness starts to happen, because of not riding on my laurels, not resting on my laurels, not getting too comfortable. Okay. And I can speak on that from experience. And in business, especially in the roofing, construction, service, that's everything, is the one more. The difference between average and elite isn't massive. There's not a massive talent gap. It's discipline in small moments. Okay. It's choosing to do one more when you don't feel like doing it. It's suiting up and showing up, and I'll tell you from personal experience, this mind shift hit me at a time where we were growing. I remember we were over at the old shop, but I knew we weren't at our fullest potential. Okay. A lot of stuff still back then was word of mouth. Not a lot of things were documented. And so it wasn't necessarily like a strategy issue. It was a me issue. Okay. This is where, there were areas where I was getting comfortable and complacent and letting things slide, and avoiding the hard conversations and not pushing as hard as I could. And this concept of one more made me focus and ask myself the question of where am I stopping short? Where am I quitting early? Where am I choosing comfort over growth? Okay. And that's not always fun to face. It's not always a fun place to be, when you got to sit down and get gut level honest with yourself and say, where am I cutting corners? Am I sleeping in? Am I hitting the snooze button 3 times? Am I showing up to work late? Okay. Am I leaving early? Where am I cutting corners? Am I waiting to the last minute to place orders? Am I not going to Lowe's at 7:30, 8 o'clock at night to pick up materials for the next day? And this is where a lot of people fall short. This is what separates the boys from the men. In the culture that we live in today, it's almost like in some sections of the planet, working hard's not cool. And I don't know where this horse shit idea came up, who, where, culture, age group, generation of bullshit came about. But this isn't about gimmies. This isn't about handouts. This isn't about food stamps. And I'm not saying that people shouldn't be and do and get assistance and help, but I'd like to consider it a hand up, not a hand out. I've been in rough places. I've lived in a van. I get it. I completely understand it. But in my case, it was all self-induced. I elected to be a piece of crap. And today I don't choose to be a piece of crap. So today I choose the one more difficult conversation, the one more rep. For me, it's necessary. Okay. Because the level that I want to take this business, the level of personal growth that I want to take, is directly tied to the willingness to want to be better, to have my family be in a better place, to have my coworkers be in a better place. So I have to. It's a non-negotiable for me to quit, give up. So love this topic. So I had to make an identity shift. Essentially, back then, when I was a piece of shit, looking for someone to come save me, no one's coming. There's no plan B. There's no safety net. You got to get after it. You got to do it. Just do it. Because, dude, who in the hell is trying to FaceTime me right now?
Bring him on the show.
Who in the hell? Anyhow, okay. So, big identity shift here. One of the biggest takeaways that I've actually got from the book, and this is huge. This is a huge one. Okay, you don't get what you want. You get who you become. And let me say that again. You don't get what you want. You get who you become. And that hit me hard. That is one major piece that I got out of the book, because I had goals for the company, revenue goals, growth, expansion. Okay. But the real question became for me, okay, am I the person? And this is where I had to get honest. Right. And I questioned this. I second guessed my decisions. Okay. Am I the person capable of leading at that level that I want to take the company? Because if the answer was no, then I knew I had to change something. There was that, and that's where the one more for me came in, where I had stopped doing the one mores. Okay. It's not just about doing the one more. It's about for me at that time, it was about becoming more. I had to become more. I had to do more. But I also needed to figure out what more was. What was the more? What other skills did I need to acquire? What other books did I have to work? You know, who other people, what other business owners did I have to surround myself around at that time to push me up, right? What disciplines, what other levels of leadership was there? What other accountability measures should I put in place, not just for myself, but also for the team? Because I could be growing, but if the team's not growing with me, then there was a problem. But if the team is growing and I'm not growing, like I was going through this whole paradigm shift and really trying to figure things out. But some of the things that I had to work on most of it was me personally, the things that I had to work on. So anyhow, let's bring this to real life application to our team. Okay. So and it's super simple. And I've talked about this numerous times, so for like our sales team, it would require, if you're door knockers, right? That means go out, knock more doors, knock one more door, one more follow-up call, one more objection handled instead of just walking away. Okay. Leadership team. And Glenn comes to mind when I think about leadership, because Glenn is an exemplified example of leadership. He had to have maybe not necessarily a difficult conversation with the production team yesterday, but he had it, right? He had a coaching session with our team. It was one more time of holding the standard when it would have been just easier to let things slide. But as the season has changed, it's become the roofing season. The clocks have moved forward. The sun's up earlier, so there was changes where our production team may have fallen into a rut where it was like, hey, we don't have to be at work till 8 o'clock in the morning when the sun's already been out for 2 hours. So He had to realign the standards for the season that is upon us right now. And I know that wasn't probably a very an easy conversation to have, but he had it, and he holds the standard. He knows the standard. He helped me write the standard. So for operation, same thing, right? One more system improvement. We got to constantly look at where we need to improve. We had an amazing marketing meeting yesterday. We had to realign the standards. What's our focus for the next upcoming months? And we've already talked about next year, right? What are we doing? What foundation are we laying today? What's one more step that we can do today? Yes, will impact us tomorrow. However, I'm more concerned about next year already. So what one more improvement, system improvement can we make? What's one more detail that we can cover? What's one more piece of content that we need to capture, not just for the public, but for our team, for educating and training purposes for our team to make it easier for us to hold the standard? What's one more video? What's one more piece of content that we can put in that video? What's one more thing that we can do? Like, let's uncover everything. Let's dissect it. Let's rip it apart. Let's put it back together again and build it better. What's one more time? And I don't know how many times we've done this, but what got us here is not going to keep us, not going to get us where we want to go. So, and this is where business separates, because most companies operate at good enough, and I can't take good enough. I can't stand good enough. I hold myself to a higher standard than good enough. Okay. But one more companies, they operate at greatness. We're not striving for perfection. Okay. But I want to be great, right? I want progress to be great. And the truth about comfort, here's something I want to talk about for a second, because I've experienced this firsthand. Okay. Comfort is the enemy of growth. Hands down. And success can actually make you comfortable. Things are going well. Things are working. Making money. Made payroll. Things are good, right? And without even realizing it, I stopped pushing. I stopped doing the things that got us here. And believe me, that is dangerous, because the moment you stop doing the one more, someone else starts, and then they pass you. So this isn't just about growth. It's about staying sharp. So here's what I want. I want to challenge you today. Where in your life, just like I'm doing right now, are you one more away? Is it one more conversation you've been avoiding? Is it one more step towards a goal you keep putting off? Is it one more level of effort you are capable of? Be honest with yourself, because you already know the answer. You already know the answer. And here's the thing. It doesn't require a complete overhaul. Okay. We talk about this all the time. Okay. It just requires one more. All right. So I'll leave you with this. The life you want, the business you want, the department you want, the family you want, the impact you want to make, it's not miles away. It's just moments away. It's one decision away. It's one more action away. One more. If this episode hit you, I would encourage you to go read the book. Okay. And tune into our other podcast. Love, like, subscribe. Okay. And don't just read the book once. Okay. Revisit it, because like I said, every time I go back to it, I see something new, because I've grown. And thank you for listening to Beyond Until Well, episode 331. If you got any value from this episode, please share it with somebody on your team. And remember, you're always one more away. We'll see you on the next one.
Thanks to our sponsors, TC Backer Construction, Hook Roofing Marketing, Roofle, and Project Mapit. And thank you for watching. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Facebook. We are streaming on all major platforms. See you next week for another episode of Behind the Tool Belt.